Hello, and welcome to the Data Basics, Reliability and Validity Training. My name is Kellen Reed, and I'm an Early Childhood Technical Assistant Specialist with DaSy at the UNC Chapel Hill Frank Porter Graham Child Development Institute. In this module, we will explore two key aspects of data quality, reliability and validity. Our first objective for this course is to better understand high-quality data through the concepts of reliability and validity. We will then take these ideas of validity and reliability and see how they may apply to your work with Part C or Part B, Section 619 data. In a previous course, we described 6 fundamental characteristics of high-quality data. High-quality data are accurate, timely, or current, complete, or representative of entire population or area of interest, usable, accessible, and secure. As depicted in this diagram, these characteristics are overlapping or interdependent as one characteristic relies in part on the other. Validity encompasses 3 of the fundamental characteristics of high-quality data: accuracy, completeness, and usability. Accuracy is perhaps the most well-known characteristic of validity. Accurate data are considered to be true or correct representations of the data, and thus a necessary requirement for data to be considered valid. If, on the other hand, much of the data is incomplete or missing, regardless of how accurate the data are, then validity will suffer as your data may not be a true representation of the measurement's population, trends, etc. In addition, the characteristic of usability is strongly tied to validity and will be further described in the section on validity. Reliability can be thought of as how much we can depend on data to be accurate. As data become more consistently accurate, reliability increases. Similarly, if data are incomplete or missing, then data are inherently unreliable. If you're here but still wondering why you need to understand reliability and validity, then you may want to check these reasons out. Just to name a few. The first is to gain knowledge of how commercial assessments and surveys might be used or not used, particularly with respect to the data they produce. Making the leap from reporting data to using data requires some understanding of these concepts. Similarly, interpreting results to take appropriate actions would require you to understand and identify what may be needed to address any findings in your results. And finally, you may want to be able to explain results to stakeholders in a way that allows them to determine the quality of the data. Let's look more closely at reliability. Think of reliability primarily as the ability of a process and/or tool to provide consistent, reproducible data from one use to the next. When a measurement tool or process is reliable, different people can be trained to apply it in the same way. So that, for example, Jane receives the same or very similar score on an assessment regardless of whether Emma or Harriet is administering it to her, or whether she takes it in a quiet room at home or at school, or whether she takes it today or tomorrow, as long as she has had a good night's sleep and breakfast. In this example, you can see how fidelity of the implementation of the measurement and collection tools and processes yield reliability to the resulting data. Here are some examples of issues with reliability in the context of early intervention and early childhood special education data. When it comes to child outcomes measurement, different approaches to measuring child outcomes may influence how reliability will factor into the data. For example, the child outcome summary process is an approach that relies on the proficiency of the team determining a child's rating. This may introduce some variability, but the process has been shown to produce ratings that are reliable and highly correlated with measurements of functional skills when implemented with fidelity. The family outcomes are measured using survey data, where surveys generally provide reliable data as long as questions are unambiguous, for instance. Although we typically try to minimize the survey burden on responders, the drawback is that the fewer the items, the less reliable, or the greater number of items, the more reliable. This is because averaging over 3 response items will have more variance than averaging over more items. This is less of a concern for the family survey, but worth keeping in mind, especially if you are seeing large swings in your child or family outcomes indicator data from year to year, where this jagged or sawtooth pattern is one hallmark of low reliability. This visualization may also demonstrate increasing reliability if the swings become smaller in their amplitude in future years. If you have concerns about reliability, there are strategies for improvement, and most involve improving the fidelity of your data collection and measurement. Standardizing the processes and practices around data collection and measurement is one key step. For instance, many states using the child outcomes summary process approach to measuring their child outcomes have incorporated the use of the child outcomes summary rating decision tree tool into their statewide processes and procedures for determining a child's rating. These states have reported that making this decision process universal has improved the reliability of the team's ratings considerably. Providing clarity around the use of such tools and integrating their use into the standardized process is also an integral part of implementing this kind of strategy. Otherwise, you may end up with the opposite result and undermining reliability. So strategies such as trainings that increase the knowledge and skills of those involved will improve consistency, but only insofar as those skills and knowledge are universally applied as part of a standardized procedure. To maximize the reliability of the measures, the state should utilize a diverse stakeholder group of those involved in collecting, analyzing, and interpreting the assessment or survey data collection instrument to provide information about the difficulty or clarity of questions or the data collection or measurement process. Administrators should use procedures to understand the amount of error in the resulting data and share any resulting information with those providers administering the data collection process. In any data collection, the possibility exists for measurement errors. So quality checks, such as relative change from prior years, should be used to identify and address sources of errors in an ongoing way. So let's tackle validity next. In a general conversation, when we characterize the justification for a course of action or the points in an argument as valid, we grant those views are logically sound, reasonable, or appropriate. In the context of data analysis and use, validity is similarly, albeit more specifically, concerned with the degree to which your measurement results reflect what you intend to measure for a given purpose. The first aspect to appreciate is essentially about the merits of the results themselves. Are they sound, correct, reasonable, error-free, etc.? Do you trust the results based on what you know about the processes and tools used? The additional yet key factor to consider is the appropriateness of using these results for the intended purpose. For instance, one validity question might be, To what extent do the family survey responses reflect how well programs support families? The bold portion of this text identifies the use for the family survey results as a way to understand how well programs are supporting families. Family survey results, even if they are internally valid, would not be as appropriate for understanding how much progress children are making. On the other hand, the conclusions drawn from using the child outcome summary statements to understand how much progress children with an IEP or IFSP are making would be highly valid as long as the underlying measurement processes, data, and analysis were sound, correct, error-free, etc. To help illustrate how issues of validity may look in early childhood and how knowledge of this concept might help you better understand and use your data, consider these examples. In the first example, a state realizes their data deviated from what was expected. This could have been a deviation from a target trajectory, or in a comparison to another state or multiple states or the national data. The state may then discover there was an error in the calculation used for the analysis, an issue with internal validity. When the state first realized there was a large difference than what was expected, then they faced three possible causes where understanding validity would help them better understand what was happening. First, there may not be any validity issue. There was fidelity of measurement and data collection and proper analysis. In this case, the difference is likely real, and contributing factors could be investigated that could explain the deviation. Second, other states may have changed their measurement processes, tools, or analysis that makes the use of the state's results for the purpose of a cross-state comparison inappropriate. Lastly, there may have been errors that led to inaccurate results at one or multiple points in their process, which is what the state ultimately uncovers. In this example, the state's internal validity was low. The second scenario would lead to measurement results that would not be very reflective of functional outcomes. Internal validity of these results for the purpose of using them for demonstrating progress would be low if the tool is not measuring functional outcomes. The next example is similar in that the tool being used does not adequately measure what is intended for this purpose. There's an internal validity issue that is varying in degree depending on how it may be used. Decisions made from using these results for older children or a population with a large majority of older children would be more valid than those made for very young children. This situation does occasionally come up in Part C programs, where some find that very few children have social emotional delays when they enter Part C between birth and 1 year old, but then you see many more kids exit with delays. This could be due to measures being less sensitive in young children, in which case a conclusion that children are not making progress would not be valid. In the final example of programs identified as having lower than expected outcomes, state staff ultimately conclude that the decrease from the year before, albeit large, was attributable to local circumstances that were out of the control of the program. Yet those factors still had a negative effect on the outcome. When presented with these findings, the state has the same general paths to explore as in the first example. Is this a validity issue, a problem with the results or the use of the results? Or is this an issue that has been uncovered by using the results? A single year to year suggests something has changed, but does not implicate validity versus other contributing factors. In this situation, there may or may not be a validity issue, depending on the purpose of the results. If the purpose was to measure how well a program is complying using this outcome, then the measurement is inappropriately capturing factors not related to compliance and thus decreases its validity. If, on the other hand, the purpose of using these measurement results was to identify changes in performance that could be used to inform program decision-making and improvements, then this may turn out to be valid after all. There are many steps to consider in addressing issues with validity. Consider what factors might be contributing to the data validity issues and the strategies that could address these factors. This includes identifying measures that are well aligned to what you're trying to measure, providing ongoing training opportunities as new employees join the organization, as trainings can improve the reliability and internal validity of the data. Ensuring that data entry fields have edit checks so that data entry scores cannot contribute to error. Ensuring accurate interpretation and translation for children and families that speak languages other than English, which may also be a reliability improvement strategy. Compiling and sharing data with key stakeholders regularly so that they can determine if the data accurately reflect what they are intended to measure. As you may have noted, highly valid tends to require at least modestly reliable measurements. So it may be necessary to reduce or eliminate reliability issues first. So far, we've been focused primarily on understanding, identifying, and addressing issues related to validity and reliability as separate concepts. As a closing thought, we also want to share a summary of strategies that can help to ensure valid and reliable measurement results as they relate to the periods before, during, and after data collection. Some strategies to consider before data collection, for instance, select valid and reliable tools, provide effective data collection and training, and ensure data system procedures and functions produce accurate data. During data collection, provide ongoing supervision of assessment process. Incorporate refresher training into professional development strategies and give feedback to assessors. And finally, after data collection is completed, reviewing assessment records and using data analysis to check the validity of the results are good strategies to employ. By understanding these concepts of validity and reliability and their application to your work, we hope that you will better understand how your data can be used, their limitations, and how to identify and address your data quality. Thank you. This concludes our course on reliability and validity. DaSy Center technical assistance providers are available to support you with any of your data needs. You will find contact information on the DaSy website. And thanks again for learning with us.